It's time for another edition of Dome and Domer.
Hey, Irish fans, welcome back to Dome and Domer, the oldest Notre Dame podcast on the planet. I'm your host, Mike Sullivan from the class of 1990, and joining me today from Dillon Hall in the class of 1990, Mike Brammer, Dillon Hall, class of 89, Ed Jordanik. We're not experts, but we're passionate Notre Dame fans who bleed blue and gold. For the next 20 minutes, we're going to talk about the upcoming game with Boise State, and we'll start today with just a few updates from Coach Freeman's last press conference of the week. If you like the conversation on Dome and Domer, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, really the only big takeaway from my point of view in Coach Freeman's press conference today was an update on the status of All-American cornerback Leonard Moore. So I felt like it was a little bit of a tweener comment. Coach said, Leonard Moore will be able to help us on Saturday. Not quite he's starting, not quite he's 100% ready to go, but he'll be able to help us. So a little bit of a mixed message here. Bram, Eddie, what do you want to see out of Leonard Moore and reps this week? Eddie, why don't we start with you?
Okay, I don't want to see him. High ankle sprain is a tough one. Unless they're just absolutely getting torched and the game is in jeopardy at halftime, I just don't see a reason to play him with that kind of an injury. And to tell you the truth, I wouldn't play him next week against a kind of a mediocre to below average North Carolina State team. They will obviously need him at full strength against USC. So my take is don't play him if you don't, unless you really, really, really have to.
Yeah, totally agree. Bram, same thoughts from you?
Yeah, I 100% agree. It just makes no sense. He's too big of a weapon for us. He's a lockdown corner like that. Those are premier guys. It just makes no sense to me that they would rush him back.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's playing at all. It's my gut.
And I think it's actually a good comment by Freeman. It costs you nothing to suggest that he might play.
Yeah.
And make sure, they're going to have to take that into consideration if Leonard Moore's on the field. That does affect how they pursue the game. So, I don't think we're going to see him. Good to know he's progressing, but high ankle sprains are nothing to mess with. So let's keep him on ice until Southern Cal. Okay, looking ahead this weekend, couple big games that have implications for Notre Dame. Let's start with Alabama and Vanderbilt. Hard to believe we're talking about the Vanderbilt game being a big one for Notre Dame's picture and the college football playoff picture. But, I see it breaking out like this. The SEC is going to get 4 teams. And I don't want to see any debate about should they get a 5th team, right? Let's let Vanderbilt sink back to the middle or back of the pack in the SEC. And to me, Alabama continuing to ascend, and let's let Vandy settle down where they belong. What do you guys think of that matchup and its implication for the college football playoffs? Bram, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that unless there's total chaos, right? If there's going to be a bunch of teams in the SEC beating each other and all of a sudden a bunch of teams have 3 and 4 losses, okay, fine. But what you don't want, as you said, is somebody making the case that there should be a 5th team from the SEC. And Vandy is definitely the kind of team that could do that. So I would agree with you on that one.
I would say exactly what Mike Sullivan said, except switch around Vandy and Alabama. I'd like to see them drop to the middle to the bottom tier, and I'd like to see Vandy make the playoffs.
I would like that. I just don't think it's going to happen. Yeah.
No, I know. I'm a Clark Lee guy, but it's pretty amazing what he's done with a 5'4" quarterback, and a school that's harder to get into than Harvard. So good for him, and I'll be rooting for Vandy. I agree with you guys, but to me, it's still early in the season, and I'd rather see how far Vandy can take this. So.
Yeah, I'm not as sentimental as you, Ed. I'm cold and calculating, and I just don't think that they're going to be there at the end. So let's start that process right now. Couple matchups of highly ranked teams with former Notre Dame opponents, right? A&M versus Mississippi State, Miami versus Florida State. Obviously, we're in a situation where there's not an opportunity for a lot of marquee wins. And so our good losses have to be great losses. So I'm all in on A&M versus Mississippi State and Miami versus Florida State. Bram.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Miami-Florida State game is probably the more concerning game just because of that type of rivalry game. Those kids all know each other. They all being recruited by the same guys. Half of them have played against each other. So that game, I think, is going to be a nail biter for a while. Now, I do think that Miami is going to take over just because Beck is that kind of quarterback. I mean, he's been there, done that. This is nothing that's going to phase him. And I just think he's the better guy on the team for Miami that's going to make a difference in that game. So I expect both A&M and Miami to win this weekend.
I think I think Miami's a better program right now, right? I think
their D
Beck
line's
is the better
deal,
quarterback,
so,
and Miami's the better program. Eddie, what do you think?
Well, I would just maybe sort of revise something that you said. I mean, I don't think we have any chance for any, I can't remember the exact term that you used, meaningful or games left on our schedule. I don't think you get any credit for beating a rival at home. So, I don't think we have any high octane wins left on our schedule. And so all that means is that even, these games mean even more, than they normally would. And, I guess I would trade a Vandy loss for A&M and Miami win. Let's put it that way.
Okay. I think I'm a little more overall in the whole big picture. I think Miami is going to run the table. I'm not sure I believe in A&M, and I'm hopeful that A&M stays in the top 4 of the SEC. Here's a scenario to worry about. A&M is 5th in the SEC with 2 losses. There's so many variables. It could play out that way. And ending up now, the direct data point is head-to-head win A&M over Notre Dame, right? So things like that worry me a little bit. But I do think our best path forward is A&M remaining in the top 10. Okay, again, keeping an eye on the ACC and the Big 12, as I see it, those 2 conferences have to have 1 playoff team, not 2, if we're going to have a chance. And so some of those, again, you want chaos. You want those middling teams to all have, 2, 3 losses as the runner-up in those conferences. So we'll keep an eye on that as the season progresses. All right, let's turn our attention to, obviously, our game against Boise State, and we'll talk about it through our Pick 6 keys to the game. So, Bram, you're going to kick things off. What's your top key for the game?
I'm going to go with moving it on first down. We have got to have movement past the 5-yard gain on first down. I want to see that. Part of that is the way you're going to pull that off is spreading the wealth. And I think CJ's going to have to do that. So if CJ can spread the wealth and really sit down and be comfortable like he has been these last couple of games, then I think you're going to see that. You're going to see Notre Dame move the football on first down. What I'd hate to see if we go backwards like we did the first 2 games on first down, that's going to be a real problem for us. And that's what you don't want to see against a team like Boise State and letting these guys hang around. So that's my key is first down yardage gain.
I'm with you. I think the way we do that is to continue to spread it around, right? We've got a lot of weapons on the team, and obviously a lot's been said about our 2 outstanding running backs. But, Faison has been great as the field receiver with sort of free access releases and soft coverage. Carr and he have been in great rhythm, hitting 8-10-yard outs, right? And that's a great way to stay ahead of the chains. Eddie, what are your thoughts on the offense being in a good position after first down?
Yeah, I mean it's obviously very important. But my sense is that the preference is, like Mike said, to sort of mix it up. I mean, I'm sort of more interested in sort of how the offensive line responds. I think they basically had 2 weeks off in a row. They just were able to manhandle Purdue, and A&M basically pass protection was very good. Big holes for Price and Love. This will be a little bit of a stiffer challenge. And I think Boise State, if they have a strength on defense, it is getting after the passer. So to me, it's an offensive line game. On offense, that's where it all starts. We just have weapons, right? If Carr's a little bit off, Love will pick up the slack. If Love is a little bit off, Price will pick up the slack. If Faison's a little bit off, you'll get a decent game out of Reardon. I mean, there's just a lot of options, but none of those work if Carr is running for his life or having issues up front. So that's what I'll be looking at, the offensive line.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was my key to the game as well on the offensive side, was protect CJ Carr. We're going to see a lot of pressure. I think one way to protect Carr, obviously it's easy to say, right, the offensive line in pass pro. But I think we protect Carr by making them pay when they're bringing the house, right? We have to be able to turn those into big plays. And that could be, obviously through the passing game, but also through the running game. So when they're going to sell out to get pressure on the quarterback, there's opportunity for us, and we have to take advantage of it. So I think protecting Carr means make them pay when they blitz. Okay, Eddie, give us one of your keys to the game.
So, I think that Freeman talks about this all the time. They've demonstrated that they could bounce back from failure. Now they've got to show that they can handle a little bit of success, right? They've had 2 good outings in a row. The defense showed some signs of improvement. Can they continue to build on that? When you lose your first 2 games and you don't have any marquee games left on the schedule, style points matter, right? So I think that they've got to dominate. They've got to push people around. They've got to win. They've got to get some takeaways. They've got to continue to get some big plays that get on Sports Center. Whether it's a love leap or a fake punt or whatever it is. You got to keep Notre Dame sort of up there in people's consciousness. I think we caught a break by not dropping out of the top 25 after 2 losses. You can't drop us out now if we continue to win and win big. So I know that those rankings don't really mean a lot, but again, it's sort of clicks or eyeballs on us. So to me, it's, can we handle success? Can we come up with another strong performance after rebounding?
Okay, so on the offensive side of the ball, we've got, win on first down by spreading it around, share the wealth. 2, protect CJ Carr. 3, handle success. Offense is having a lot of it. You got to keep that rolling. Let's flip it around to the defense now. And here's one of the keys I have. Boise State, we got to make them one-dimensional. They're effective running and throwing. That's why they're the 9th best offense in the country in total offense, right? But if we can make them one-dimensional, that's going to aid in our ability to really dominate the game. I don't really care which dimension we take away, but I think, you got to stop the run first. I guess that's probably the most important thing. Their quarterback's a veteran guy, returning starter, but he's like 5'10", 205, and he's not a tremendous athlete. I think if we make them throw the ball to beat us, that sounds counterintuitive because we've struggled there, but I just don't think he can complete enough passes to beat us. So let's make him one-dimensional. Eddie, take a crack at that.
Yeah, I like the idea of, these havoc stats and disruption. And I think we need some breakouts from guys that I think are capable of that. I'm thinking specifically of Jalen Sneed and I was going to say Bryant Young, but Bryce Young. These are guys with elite talent that are sort of pegged as future pros, but they've been sort of on the outside looking in so far this season as far as the defense goes. So whether it's causing turnovers, creating havoc up front, even if, Bryce Young is what, 6'7", 6'7.5". You just mentioned the size of this quarterback. Knock a couple passes down, bat one up in the air that gets picked off, do something that impacts the game, that stops a drive or that, creates a turnover. We need that. We need playmakers on defense. And those 2 guys going into the season, I think we all thought that they were going to fit that bill, and they haven't yet. So let's see them break out this weekend. Okay,
Bram, that leads right into one of your keys for the game.
Yeah, no, it is. And I do think that for trying to shut down one or the other, that is a big ask when you look at Boise State. They got 3 guys that average over 5.8 yards a carry. They got 4 receivers that have all received more than 10 receptions. So they're a powerhouse on offense that spreads it around. So if we can limit them to one dimension, I would agree with you 100%. On my side, similar to what Ed said, I do think the defense has got to show up today with some takeaways. We have the talent on this team. We're deeper than these guys. And therefore, you got to flex a muscle here. And part of doing that is making some plays against inferior talent. Not to say that's hugely inferior. I'm not saying that. But wherever we do have those matchups that we like, we got to gamble a little bit and make some turnovers. And that's going to be key to keeping that scoreboard spread big like we need it to be in order to impress everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, we've got a better roster. It's better. It's deeper. I think that's going to show up in places like we haven't really talked about special teams today, but I think that's where it really shows up. I mean, you think about our highly recruited guys that are competing to get on the field, and they're doing that on special teams, right? And so that's where we're going to have as big an edge as anywhere else on the field, I think. And the opportunity to make some big plays there is definitely in our favor. So lots of things I think are pointing in our favor. So let's get to actual predictions for the game. Final score predictions. Eddie, what do you got for us?
Oh, okay. Let's say 40-20.
All right. I like it. Thanks for the clarification. I never know what's actually going to come out of your mouth. So
yeah, between you and coffee, that is a question mark.
All right. Okay, Bram, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to actually steal from my buddy, Jim O'Donnell. Sometimes the elderly are spot on with their predictions because they've seen this so many times. But I'm going to go with 50-27. I think it's going to be some shootout material. But I do think Boise State's got some playmakers, and I expect them to put a couple points on the board. I'm with that.
Okay, I'm going to take a page out of your book. I'm going to take inspiration from somebody else for my prediction as well. Another Dillonite, class of 90, Marty Hull, kicked my ass in golf at Warren today, so he gets to make the prediction. Marty said 45-17, and I'm going to go with that. I think he's spot on, 45-17 Irish. Okay, we're going to leave it there. You've been listening to Dome and Domer. We'll be back on Sunday morning with a recap of what is we all think is going to be a dominant Irish win. Until then, for Mike Brammer and Ed Jordanik, I'm Mike Sullivan. We'll see you next time on Dome and Domer.